It's kind of mad to think that Christopher Eccleston has been back as the Ninth Doctor for Big Finish for just over a year now, something that we thought would genuinely never happen. We've now had, thanks to Big Finish, a whole new season of box set adventures. We've had volumes 1, basically, series 1, Ravagers, Respond to All Calls, Lost Warriors, and Old Friends, where we've had the Ninth Doctor. Because of Big Finish, he's fought the Cybermen, he's met the Brigadier, he's met Lady Macbeth, he's been to Paris, he's been in a food fight. It's been a terrific run from Big Finish, and they've now started Series 2 with Back to Earth, which is a bit of a questionable title, a bit of a questionable theme, because they're selling this as the Ninth Doctor is now back for a box set of like Earth-based adventures, but he did a load of Earth-based adventures during like the previous ones. There were enough Earth-based adventures for Scotland to be the new equivalent of Bad Wolf, like unironically. So it seems a bit of a tenuous connection. For Back to Earth Series 2 Part 1, we've got a box set with 3 stories. We've got Station to Station by Robert Valentine, The False Dimitri by Sarah Grachella, and Auld Lang Syne by Tim Foley. 3 Earth-based stories, but a very different setting. Station to Station is set in in the contemporary day. False Dimitri is 17th century Russia, and Auld Lang Syne is the late 20th century, but we'll talk a bit more about its timey-wiminess as we go along. So let's go from the beginning, shall we say. Station to Station by Robert Valentine, where it's set mainly in Underbridge Station. We've got Saffron, played by Indigo Griffiths, who is our companion surrogate for this story, shall we say, and she has just got off a train on her way to her parents. She was on her way to her parents to tell them that she is now engaged to her girlfriend, her now fiancé, and she's basically coming out of the closet, but she gets out of the train car too early and winds up in Underbridge Station, where there is some sort of fairy tale creature called the Griminy Gru that is eating away at the lost souls who find themselves at that station. The Ninth Doctor is there as well. Let's play a clip.
Mate, I'm really scared. Don't mess around. Who are you?
Oh, right. Call me John, if you like. John Smith. Dr. John Smith. But everyone calls me Doctor.
Doctor. Right.
You okay?
Yeah, I just... Are you official?
I'm here to help.
Yeah, but seriously.
Seriously, see? Dr. John Smith, Railway Inspector.
It says you're scared and you think there's something wrong with this place.
Ah, does it?
Why would you write that? Is this some sort of joke?
No, it's not a joke. I am scared. Terrified, in fact. And there is definitely something wrong with this place. Where are we, anyway?
Underbridge, I think. I'm not really sure anymore.
Underbridge?
Yeah, the railway station, middle of nowhere.
Underbridge Railway Station. Don't like the sound of that. Still, what's in her name, eh? Speaking of which, what's yours?
Saffron.
Saffron what?
Windrose.
And your phone's dead and my psychic paper's misbehaving. Interesting.
Psychic paper?
Yep, and from now on, Saffron Windrose, you better stick with me.
Oh, had I?
Well, it's either that or go wandering off on your own again.
There's so much subtext to be found in a story like Station to Station, where you find yourself in those sort of like in-between train stations. Like there's one in Manchester called Pomona, which is like on the tram stop. It's a stop that basically only exists for ticket inspectors to throw off people who haven't actually bought a ticket on their way into the city centre of Manchester. Pomona is a infamously empty station. So you've got Saffron, who is trying to choose between the life going to her loved one, to her fiancé, or does she go to her parents, who she believes will not accept her for who she is. And the Doctor is there as well to try and find her way through that path. So at Underbridge Station, they meet the Griminy Gru, which is some sort of like Rumpelstiltskin type fairy tale creature that feeds off of the anxieties of the people at the station. These lost travellers, including the station master, including the tea lady there. It's a really cool supernatural story. It's got a lot of great atmospheric vibes to it. You heard in that clip that the Ninth Doctor says he's genuinely scared and terrified, and he's got reason to be. The Griminy Gru is this perpetually rhyming fairy tale creature that doesn't really obey the laws that you've seen the Ninth Doctor face a villain. It's sort of like his confrontation with the empty child, but it's a different vibe, it's a different feel to it. The cast is great. Indigo Griffiths as Saffron is great, like obvious like companion material here. That's not the direction that the story goes in, but it's sort of like trying to pair up the Doctor with an incredibly strong female presence, and she does a really good job here. Like, Robert Valentine is a consistently great writer for Big Finish, and Station to Station continues that trend. People in the chat asking, is this all before Rose? And that seems to be the case. There's no mention of Rose. There are mentions to doing stuff in the Time War, kind of. He just basically says that he's had a bad time recently, and that's the beginning and the end of it. If there's one issue that I do have with the box set generally, not just Station to Station, it's that I do think that this box set puts the Ninth Doctor in a little bit of a rut of having an Everybody Lives ending, like 3 times in a row, more or less, where he's trying to have the massive optimism and the upbeat endings. And with 2 of the stories, it absolutely lands and absolutely works, and I really loved it. I loved the ending for Station to Station, where I think, when it started unfolding, I was thinking, I don't really know if it's earned this ending. Then it pulls a twist, and it's like, oh yeah, it's definitely earned this ending. This ending is full of triumph, and I love it. But I do think that with this being box set number 5 of Big Finish, Ninth Doctor Adventures, I hope that they maybe do lean into the brooding Ninth Doctor, some of the cynicism after the Time War, because I think that when it comes to this TV interpretation back in 2005, he does find his heart and his soul, and he learns to love again. But if these do all take place before Rose, it makes you wonder if he was already like this. What did Rose really change with him? That's kind of the issue when you have so many stories with a Doctor like 9. But the stories themselves are really, really strong. I'm just hoping that he doesn't get really stuck in a rut of being the Everybody Lives Doctor for another 4 box set. That's a key part of the Ninth Doctor's character that I think does need to be in media, in interpretations and re-examinations of the character. But I also think that he does have a grunge phase. His TARDIS is very dark, and he's got the battered leather jacket. I think that you need to lean into that a little bit more, lest these box sets end up feeling a bit repetitive. Triton K175, I want something really psychological and deep and dark that proper dives into the Doctor's immediately post-Time War headspace. Yeah, I think that's really the most interesting direction that the Ninth Doctor can go in next for Big Finish. These stories are still really, really strong. This is a terrific box set, but I'm more thinking of this in terms of the big macro sense, the bigger picture sense for these Ninth Doctor adventures for Big Finish. It's still really good, though. John A. says the Ninth Doctor hadn't seen his own reflection before Rose. How would that work? That's a detail you just have to accept. That's a little plot hole. That's something that's a suspension of disbelief moment you kind of have to accept. Unless you go for the headcanon that you'd recently regenerated, met Rose, went away in the TARDIS at the end, had all these adventures, then came back and said, by the way, did I mention it also travels in time? That's the only way to headcanon your way around it, but I wouldn't think too much about it, to be honest. If that discrepancy stopped us from getting box sets like Back to Earth and the other Ninth Doctor adventures on Big Finish, it's a discrepancy that I can absolutely live with. It's a fair question, but I think it's just one of those live and let live situations. But Station to Station has got a really strong cast. You've got the Station Master, of course, people they've got the titles because they've lost their names. They've been in this place, they've been in this rut in their lives for so long, they've forgotten and they've lost their identity. Really strong theming, really strong subtext. I really, really appreciated Station to Station. The third act is great as well. The ending is terrific. The confrontation with the Griminy Gru, between the Doctor and the Griminy Gru, is a terrific set piece. Great references, great callbacks to the Doctor's past and the classic series. Really, really fun. And when it comes to the second story, it's my least favourite, not because it's a bad story. The False Dimitri by Sarah Grachala is really good. It's just not my vibe. It's Moscow 17th century, it's political espionage, assassination of the Tsar, and then a new Tsar comes in, and is he really all what he seems? Oh, he's got a robot army. It's the sort of playing with history that I don't think Doctor Who does its best work in. I'm glad this box set does have a historical. It helps to liven things up and to throw it into the mix. It's just not where I think Doctor Who does its strongest stuff. It's got great dialogue, great performances. We've got Sasha, played by Jack Myers. Brilliant voice, really low, rumbling voice. You'll hear it in this clip, but he's got a great voice. He's a great character, great interplay with Eccleston. Let's play a clip from The False Dimitri.
What a fascinating tool. Some kind of divining device?
More medical.
English technology is so advanced.
Oh, I guess so.
I can't believe they just left him in the street. His own guards. I would never have abandoned my Tsar.
You used to be a soldier?
I was in the Streltsy. Long time ago now.
And now you're a monk. That's quite a change of direction.
I had my fill of war and intrigue.
Opted for a more peaceful life?
If only. Nothing's ever that peaceful around here. So what's your conclusion?
His heart stopped, just like his father. When Dimitri raised his palm, it emitted a wave of energy, hit him with a massive force. Felt a bit of it myself.
That's not possible.
Tell that to the Tsar.
Well, he didn't even touch him.
Your mother would say it was magic.
Well, there's no such thing as magic.
You're a man of science, then?
Well, there's a rational explanation for everything. Magic is just science we don't understand yet.
Sensible point of view. We've not been introduced. I'm the doctor.
Father Alexander Petrovich Kuznetsov. Call me Sasha.
Well, Sasha, it looks like Dimitri's got his hands on some very advanced weaponry.
Well, he's not Dimitri.
You're in the minority with that opinion.
He's Grishka.
Who's Grishka?
Follow me.
It was with the false Dimitri that I kind of had a bit of a revelation about the Ninth Doctor, and I don't think historicals are the Ninth Doctor's strong suit, unless he's paired up with a historical figure that he can bounce across, like Charles Dickens. Because, obviously, Empty Child of the Doctor Dances is a terrific story, but that's really brought forward by theme and atmosphere, and also the companions, Jack and Rose in that story, and Nancy and Dr. Constantine. He needs to be paired with somebody just as eccentric as him, and characters in The False Dimitri are very grounded and down-to-earth, really well portrayed and well fleshed out. Like, these are great three-dimensional characters, written by Sarah Kochala, but they're not quite on the level of the Ninth Doctor's eccentricity, so as a result he kind of notches it down a little bit, and he almost becomes a little bit like a generic Doctor performance. I think this is Eccleston doing well, but kind of comfortable in the role. Like, he's naturally comfortable in the role, but he's not really pushing any boundaries here, which not every story needs to do. But The False Dimitri is a fine story, strong production values, of course. I also just like the audacity of a robot army in 17th century Moscow and the twists and turns the story takes. I also think that this is the story where the Everybody Lives ending is the least deserved, because honestly I didn't really feel that much of an attachment to the Tsar who they're trying to save. He's so enraptured in this identity crisis that he's in that you never actually get to hear the real Dimitri, the real Tsar. Yeah, it's a good story. It's a fine story for this box set as well, and it's a nice bit of texture and flavour so that these aren't just bottle episodes, like a whole box set of bottle episodes like Station to Station and Auld Lang Syne kind of are. The False Dimitri has got a real bit of scope and scale and ambition to it, which is admirable for the box set and is contrast really well. But yeah, it's like I said, so much of this is subjective. I can imagine people walking away from The False Dimitri and it's their favourite story of the box set. For me, it's not where I think Doctor Who does its best work, and it's not what gravitates me towards the franchise, but it's still a strong story, still appreciated it. Rory Lamberton, has 9 met the angels yet in Big Finish? No, but there's time at some point. And I saw Toby's comment there as well. I don't see why Big Finish can't be sneaky and bring Ninth and Rose together while both are in the booth. Oh, it's a matter of time. If Billie Piper is doing Dimension canon stuff, I'm very confident that there's a Ninth Doctor and a Rose story in the near future. I'm really confident of that. Like, it's not going to be announced yet, of course. I don't think that we have any other details on future Ninth Doctor adventures, except for the fact that we have 3 more box sets coming over the next few months, and Eccleston's going to be in them. But yeah, it's only a matter of time. It really is. But speaking of time, let's talk about Auld Lang Syne, which is the head and shoulders highlight of this box set, written by Tim Foley. And it takes place at this house, Fold's house, and it's set in New Year's Eve 1989 at first, because the story returns to this house, returns on this New Year's Eve for several consecutive years, because the Ninth Doctor is the caretaker there, and Mandy Litherland, played by Leah Brotherhead, takes a shine to the caretaker, and there's something a bit special about her that the Ninth Doctor gravitates towards, and asks her to come back every year with this strange rod, basically. So all you have to do is just come back next year. I'll give you this house for free. I'm the caretaker. You can stay here for another year. The intrigue builds over several consecutive years. Let's play a clip from Auld Lang Syne.
Ah, here you are.
What are these?
Chipsticks.
Phenomenal.
All right.
You did all this. Booked the house, bought the food, even paid for your family's travel, I asked. Flies in the face of the current mood, everyone out for themselves. No such thing as society. Yet you're all alone in here whilst they're all outside with the pretty lights.
Well, if I'm all alone, then so are you. Sorry, that came out wrong.
I'm travelling on my own for a bit.
You travel?
I do.
I want to travel too. That's my resolution.
It's a good one. Keeping things low-key myself. Been through a lot lately.
I had a wild Christmas.
Had several. Paris, Venus. I'm probably not allowed back in Lapland.
There's something about you, Doctor.
Thanks.
Don't think I don't know you were up to something before. Prowling around the corridors with your pen torch.
I'm a cat burglar.
Steal away. It's not our house. Might help myself to some of the cutlery. But seriously.
I'm the caretaker. I'm taking care.
Of what?
Hard to say, especially if you only spend the one night here.
A dashing stranger once told me it's only on the market for one night a year.
Then come back next year.
Not gonna happen. Unless I win the pools again.
We could come to some arrangement.
How best to describe Auld Lang Syne? In terms of Doctor Who, it is a cross between the first act of The Doctor, the Widow and the Wardrobe, the first act of The Girl Who Waited, and a little bit of Eve of the Daleks. And if any of that sounds good, then Auld Lang Syne's for you. But seriously, this is a very interesting timey-wimey story. And it takes like what I kind of like about Chris Chibnall's New Year's stories, and it makes a New Year's story that's about New Year's and new beginnings. There's a little political undertone to it as well. You heard in that clip there's no such thing as society. That's because the first year, the first setting of Auld Lang Syne, Margaret Thatcher's Prime Minister, that's something she infamously said. Something historically terribly wrong. But for Auld Lang Syne, it's the idea of like, is this year a write-off? What's happening? Are we going to discover ourselves next year? As the house reveals itself year on year on year. The Doctor is kind of taking the short route from year on year, whereas Mandy is going the long way around, shall we say. She has to wait a year before discovering the new secrets of the house, but she still has a life outside of that. There's a great recurring theme where the time loop, for lack of a better term, resets because we see Mandy, or we hear Mandy driving her aunt to the house for another new year, and they sort of catch up on what's happened the year before. And there's a wonderful scene, which is, I won't spoil it, where it's just Mandy listening to the radio. And it's such an astonishing gut punch. It's Auld Lang Syne is a genuinely special and exceptional listen. It's a story, like, if you are one of those ones where you love your sci-fi, smashy bang bang Doctor Who, your historicals and stuff, but you live for those Doctor Who stories where it's just those really intimate, emotional character pieces that just rips your heart out. If those are the stories that make you excited for Doctor Who, Auld Lang Syne is destined to become like a new Ninth Doctor favourite story, or Doctor Who Big Finish story, because this was genuinely exceptional. Like, this is genuinely an exceptional listen. It was astonishingly good. Tim Foley has done a great job giving these characters real depth, and also just really portraying the anxieties and the guilts of years gone by, as Mandy essentially skips years and she becomes obsessed with the mysteries of the house, neglecting her own life in the process. And because the house is doing some timey-wimey elements, it allows her to go back to certain elements of her life or reflect on the family that she didn't know, because her mother passed away when she was young, but her mother and the family used to go to the Fold house when they were a kid. It's how they knew about the house in the first place, and it's doing weird timey-wimey stuff. This is a story where the Ninth Doctor excels in it, but this is Mandy's story. This is like companion material story that doesn't pan out like that, of course, because Rose is the Ninth Doctor companion, but there's an alternative universe out there where Mandy is like, is the Rose that we never got. It's a great performance, of course, from her, and Eccleston's on top form. The comedy is great, but there's also real depth and pathos to be found with these characters. The ending felt a little bit rushed in regards to a late in the game twist, but the rest of it, top shelf Doctor Who. Genuinely exceptional stuff. It's almost worth the price of admission alone, but the fact that it's also packaged with Station to Station, which is great as well, and the False Dimitri, which is a really strong historical as well, makes this really like a really great box set. If you're someone who kind of wants a Ninth Doctor box set to just dive into, you don't need any preamble or any sort of context. Back to Earth is a really, really good one. I think the Ninth Doctor box sets have done a really good job at being standalone. Like, you don't need to have listened to Lost Warriors before Old Friends or Respond to All Calls before Back to Earth. Like, you could honestly listen to any of these box sets and you'd be absolutely fine. But Back to Earth is a really accessible listen with genuinely great stories. Auld Lang Syne is like the best Doctor Who New Year special ever, and like, it's really, really strong. I was almost in bits by the end of it, and Big Finish does some really great stories, but very rarely have they ever made me feel feelings like Auld Lang Syne did. Oh my goodness. Who's the auntie character? I forget her name. Great Aunt Bet, Wendy Craig. So good. So good in this story. Wendy Craig is so good here as well. Like, yeah, Auld Lang Syne's the real deal. Auld Lang Syne is like my favourite Big Finish story of the year so far. Like, in terms of box sets, Peladon ranks up there. I'm not sure what my favourite box set of the year is generally, but Auld Lang Syne is my favourite story from Big Finish in 2022 so far. So, yeah, it's just great to have the Ninth Doctor back, but the fact that he's back with great stories is just, mwah, it's beautiful. I love it.